All right. What's going on, party people? Gamers. And so, not a whole lot today going on. I shouldn't say not a whole lot, but not a whole lot going on in the gaming news universe on Twitter. Welcome to another BRAP rant, by the way. So, decided to do this rant because of something that went down yesterday. Certain story broke regarding footage for EA, or more specifically, BioWare's new game, Anthem, which showed pretty well at E3. I think a lot of people were excited about this new IP from BioWare. And by the way, this is BioWare's A studio that's working on this game, so it's not the same folks that poo-pooed all over Mass Effect. But anyhow, I just want to do a quick rant because there was a lot of there was some misinformation going around. There was a lot of excitement in the air, if you will. A lot of podcasters were taking shots at Sony, and you know how that goes. It happens to Microsoft too. The console wars. Yes, the console wars in full effect. So, anyhow, so for if you don't know, which I'd be surprised, Sony on their PlayStation channel, YouTube channel, released footage, gameplay footage, in-game gameplay footage of Anthem, which was shown at E3. Same footage shown at E3. And Digital Foundry confirmed that this footage actually was indeed running on the Xbox One X. And Sony uploaded this footage on their YouTube site, and that's when all hell broke loose. And the reason why I said all hell broke loose was because somebody, a website, I think there was a Xbox enthusiast fan site, Meg basically reported that if you were to slow down the footage on Anthem, you will see that the uh, trigger buttons for the PlayStation were photoshopped in, and you could see it. Like if you look at the image, you can see it, where you see the you kind of see the Xbox buttons kind of like faded out the right bumper. So you see like the RBLB, it's kind of like faded out, and the PlayStation triggers and bumpers are there. And so this gets out, and you can already predict what's going to happen. I mean, people are upset. People start pointing to an incident that actually took place. A couple years ago, 2 years ago. The Witcher 3 came out, and Microsoft apologized for putting out PC footage, slapping an Xbox logo on this PC footage of The Witcher 3. And what was interesting about this is that this particular footage was running at 1080p, 30 frames a second. Now, at the time, this is 3 weeks before The Witcher 3 was getting ready to release retail. We already knew what the final specs were going to be for the Xbox One version of The Witcher 3. We knew it was going to be 900p, 30 frames a second. And Microsoft showed PC footage of the game with the Xbox logo on it on their YouTube channel, 1080p, 30 frames a second. And they apologized for that and whatnot. And the media had reported it. And so immediately on Twitter and probably elsewhere, I know there was a Gaff thread about this as well. So this footage comes out with Sony's Anthem footage on their YouTube channel, which in fact was Xbox One X footage. And there's the screenshot of the blurred out photoshopped right trigger and bumper buttons for the PlayStation 4. And again, as you can imagine, people are like, holy shit, what's going on? Sony, the initial like response was, oh, Sony stole this. Like Sony stole this. And here's the thing. and some people aren't going to like to hear this, but this is true. Um, EA is really at fault for this because how the industry works. And by the way, this isn't the first time that game footage has been borrowed from a single platform and used for show on multiple platforms. It's just how it goes in the industry, you know. So EA puts this footage out. You know, they send it to Sony. Sony uploads it on their YouTube channel, and that's how it goes. That's just how the nature of the industry. And so now what's happening is I start seeing things like people saying, "Oh, there's a double standard. Why isn't the media calling this out?" Well, the media eventually did report on this. There was a Forbes article, Eurogamer, which has been called biased. You know what's interesting? It's you know, journalists are biased when they don't agree with your perspective or drive your narrative, but they're okay when they do. I see that a lot. It's interesting. It's interesting dynamic in the console wars. And so now the media's kind of picked up on this. And Sony actually, I should say that Sony more recently has taken down this video now. They've taken it down. It's no longer on their YouTube channel. You can't see it anymore. It's down. Now, they haven't issued, from what I've seen, they haven't issued an official statement on this yet. I know Forbes mentioned they reached out to them. I believe Eurogamer said they reached out to Sony for comments. Sony has not given any comments just yet. The point of this rant, though, is this. This is a time-honored tradition, if you will, in the gaming industry, from what people in the industry have told me. And the reaction or overreaction of this has just been amazing. It's been amazing. You know, I got into a debate with someone today who was hell-bent on there's a double standard and didn't want to take into context or didn't want to look at how each situation, when I'm talking about The Witcher 3 versus this situation with Anthem, how in some ways there were some differences, some key differences, as a matter of fact. We don't know anything about Anthem, how it's going to run on the PlayStation 4 Pro, if this is an accurate representation. It may not be an accurate representation of what the Pro version is going to look like. We know that the Anthem version of Xbox One X is upscaled from 2K to 1080 or to 4K using checkerboard rendering. We also know, though, that the PlayStation 4 Pro will be using checkerboarding as well. And it could be one of those situations where maybe EA and what they're showing, their footage, maybe they feel like it's a close enough accurate representation where they feel comfortable sending this footage to Sony. Now, again, I'm just purely speculating, but maybe. Or maybe, as we got to remember, EA is a publisher. Their job is to sell and market these games, and we may see Xbox One X versions of games utilize more for these videos because, hey, let's face it, these videos are going to help sell the game. Now, we can argue whether or not that's right or wrong or whether that's fair, but we got to remember these companies are in the look, and I've said this a long time ago. These companies are in the game to make money. They don't care about us. They don't care about, they don't have feelings for consumers. They don't care about us per se. They don't know us. Their job is to make money. And in a company like EA, which is publicly traded, their job is to make the shareholders happy, to increase stock value. I believe stock for EA is trading about $100 a share right now. That's their job. Our job as consumers, though, is to educate ourselves, to make educated purchasing decisions. That's our job. It's not EA's job to hold our hands, make accurate representations of things. They may not be accurate. In a perfect world, maybe that would be the case. But we got to remember, we're dealing with corporations. Corporations don't care. They care about making money. So think about that. This is a very important point. But back to what I was saying. So Redemption, what's going on? Redemption is in live chat. Yeah, right. Sony, and I mentioned this earlier, Redemption. Sony did remove the video. It's no longer on their channel. So good for Sony, I guess. I guess my point is, the rant is, I didn't really think this was a big fucking deal. I really didn't. I couldn't understand the hoopla about it. I just didn't. I just didn't care enough, really, to be honest with you. I just felt like, okay, Like I'm like the fact that I don't look at this whole fairness thing. I think of this individual who is so hell bent on what's fair and what's not. What does that have to do with gaming or your gaming experience or the enjoyment you get from playing video games? Because that's what gaming's ultimately about. So it was just amazing how much emotion I saw put into this. It was fascinating. I mean, I don't get it wrong. Don't get me wrong. It was kind of fascinating to see, what was happening. But just given what I know of the industry, I knew that it wasn't anything Sony was trying to do in terms of any kind of malicious type of motivation or behavior. And so it's interesting because, this is something that happens a lot in the industry. And for whatever reason, this particular game, really kind of ruffled the feathers of certain individuals. Some people use this to fight the console wars. I think a lot of people did. Some people brought some valid points, like, okay, well, what is the PlayStation version of the game actually going to look like if this is not an exact representation? That's a fair question. It's a fair question, I think, if you're a PlayStation owner and you're looking to buy this game and you're interested in how the final product or visuals are going to look. It's a fair question. But this one isn't on Sony. This one's on EA. It's always on the publishers when it comes to things like this. Yes, we know Microsoft apologized for The Witcher 3. And, they did that. They did that. They did that. And that was probably the right thing to do in the long run. They didn't have to. It was CD Projekt Red who fucked up. It wasn't Microsoft's fault. It was CD Projekt Red. It was their fault. So, but it's just interesting. This whole thing is fascinating in the sense of how upset people got. And it was an ongoing thing all day. I saw things from leave it to Sony. They're trying to steal things. Sony's afraid of the Xbox One X. The media is afraid of the Xbox One X. I have bad news for you folks. I don't think Sony's really afraid of the Xbox One X right now. They're the market leader. And I don't think the media is afraid of the Xbox One X either. And the whole idea of this mistreatment or this preferential treatment of Sony from the media and how Sony somehow gets a free pass. I think maybe we can put that to rest today because the media did report on this. And that was a lot of the argument that I saw from fanboys. We could probably put that argument to rest now. The facts are there. If you choose to ignore them, that's on you, but they're there. Facts say otherwise. This story gets better, though. This story gets much better. Come to find out that after Sony decides to remove the footage of Anthem, Forbes puts out this article, and the head of Xbox marketing, Aaron Greenberg, retweets the Forbes article that says Sony just took down a Photoshop version of that Xbox One X Anthem video. Aaron Greenberg quotes that on Twitter and says, "Oops!" Exclamation point, smiley face. So, all this over a Photoshop video. Something that has happened before. And now we have Sony executives kind of taking a little bit of a jab at Sony. Kind of taking a jab. And I think honestly, my opinion on this is that I thought it was a little bit silly for Aaron to do that. I didn't think it was necessary. I think if anything that potentially provokes or promotes console wars, I don't necessarily agree with developers, whether it's, or executives, whether it's from Sony, Microsoft, kind of engaging in this kind of activity. I just don't think it's necessary. And I was kind of surprised that Aaron actually did tweet that out. And of course, the responses on Twitter, I think it just opened the floodgates. I mean, I wonder how many people Aaron muted or deleted. But it was interesting. I think there was one guy, probably my favorite response in response to what Aaron tweeted was from a gentleman on Twitter who said, "Don't you wish Xbox had a quality exclusive they could Photoshop from PlayStation? Oops! Exclamation point, smiley face." Just savage. And that was my point. Like, I felt like, him tweeting that out was going to encourage those kind of responses. And it just isn't necessary. It isn't necessary. They should be focusing on promoting this console, this powerful console they have, focusing on marketing some of the games they have coming out. I don't think this does anything. I mean, in the long run, this doesn't do anything to really harm them, but it doesn't do anything positive either. You're just poking the bear here, and you're kind of adding fuel to the console wars, and that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. And so I don't agree. Again, I don't agree with executives doing these kinds of things. I just don't. I just don't think it's. I think it's counterproductive more than anything else. And people get wrapped up in it, unfortunately. So this is interesting. I mean, this has certainly been an interesting day, to say the least. And I'm just shocked that people are in uproar over this, over something that happens consistently in the industry in terms of footage. As I mentioned earlier, it is well known that, maybe it isn't well known, but it's a practice that happens in the industry where publishers will send out footage of one platform and share it amongst maybe 2 or 3 other platforms. It just happens. It happens. We see this with PC footage being shown on consoles. So it happens. I mean, this isn't anything new. I'm just surprised by the outrage over something that happens a lot, over something that EA fucked up on. It wasn't Sony. But it's almost like people jumped at the bit to, in a lot of ways, I think, just, push a narrative, push the console wars that, maybe, it kind of use this to fuel the console wars. Because I got to be honest, at the end of the day, it doesn't change my opinion on the game. It doesn't make me look less. It doesn't make me less interested. And in the reality, like, this stuff doesn't really affect me. It doesn't. What the developer does, what the final product turns out to be, is what most concerns me. Not whether or not Sony photoshopped this shit or if it was Sony's fault. I don't care. I don't fucking care. I really don't care, because it's not going to affect my gameplay experience. It's not going to affect whether or not I'm going to pick up the game or not. It just isn't. And so to see people so overworked and react in the way they did, it's just, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And maybe because I don't have enough time on my hand to get it. Maybe because of other things going on. Interesting, though. Interesting to say the least, though. It really is. It really is. But like I said, I mean, ultimately, I think what people should be focusing on is, how's this game going to turn out? And keep in mind, this game is coming out in 2018. It's going to be out in like another year. So people are upset over something that's not even coming out. They're upset over pre-alpha footage. If you got beef, take it up with EA. Take it up with EA. But in the grand scheme of gaming, I mean, this is a very small thing. And it caught the attention of the media because people were talking about it on social media. But let's remember, those that are on social media are but a speck in the greater gaming community. I think sometimes people forget that. They feel like they're it, that they're the greater representation of the gaming community. It's not true. It's not true. So I just again just want to do a quick rant about this, and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you really feel like Sony's the devil here, or if you feel like Aaron Greenberg was appropriate in his comments. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd be interested to hear your feedback and what you think. Because like I said, different people have different views on this. They really do. Ooh, I already got a dislike on this. Look at that. That didn't take long. Yeah, get this. Yeah, look, you know what? I'm not a fanboy. I'm not gonna fan out to stuff. I'm not gonna fan out to nonsense. I'm grown. Just I don't have time for that. Me playing video games is about enjoying video games. Because that's what gaming's all about. I've been saying that for a long time on this podcast. There's grown men out there who, for whatever reason, get angry with bullshit like this, who forget what gaming's all about. Gaming's about having fun. These little things, they don't impact you unless they impact your overall gaming experience. And again, I'll say this. If you feel like you've been misled, or if you feel like EA was misleading purposely, you know what? Speak with your wallet. Or maybe wait to see what the final version, the final outcome of the finished product turns out to be, and then make a purchasing decision on that. I can go a whole nother rant about that, by the way, pre-orders and whatnot, and the pre-order culture and how it's potentially detrimental to gamers. But I'm not going to do that tonight because I'm trying to hop on Ghost Recon Wildlands. I just picked it up on the Xbox summer sale, so I'll probably be playing that this evening. But yeah, again, everyone, let me know in the live chat what you guys think, or in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, give me a like, subscribe as well. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast will be back on this Wednesday for our regular scheduled weekly podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you're going to definitely want to listen to this podcast because we're going to tell you, if you haven't heard already, I'm sure a lot of you have, how to get an Xbox One X on the cheap. Look, I wasn't going to get an Xbox One X. I didn't want to spend the additional $500. I didn't feel like it had enough or offered a good value proposition for me. But GameStop has changed that. And we're going to be talking about that on Wednesday night, again at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us in the live chat. And again, remember to give us a like this video, subscribe as well. And we'll catch you this Wednesday. And hey, everyone have a great, happy, safe 4th of July as well. And remember, gamers, to game on, but more importantly, have fun doing so, because that's what gaming is all about. See you guys on Wednesday. Peace.